Teaching is one of those rare professions where we interact with so many different personality types in one given day. It doesn't matter what year, what grade, what school, what part of the world you're in. I'm convinced that we all interact with the same student types. Today, here and now, we're talking about the overachiever. The overachiever is the student that is always like the pick me student. Ooh, 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 I know, I know. They're the first one with their hand up. They're one of the first to have the answer done and accomplished before everybody else. And oftentimes, these students are just begging for some type of attention and validation. Although this might be a good thing as an educator because you always know, hey, I can count on that student for an answer, you really have to be careful because oftentimes these students put an overemphasis on their grade. Maybe the pressure comes from home, maybe the pressure comes from within themselves. But I've also noticed that these students sometimes can also deal with a lot of like emotional trauma, or maybe they just feel like really down if they don't do well and get a bad grade. Oftentimes you have to be careful and just keep an eye out for these students because when they're doing well, their emotions are really high and they're excited. But when they don't do well, I find that they can really be really hard on themselves or even scared of how their parents may respond. So always be mindful of how that student is reacting in your room, but also don't always rely on them to answer a question. Hey, thank you so much, but I'm now going to call on so-and-so. There are other students in the room that deserve your time, your attention, and we don't want them to get too intimidated by the overachiever in the room. Validate them, but also don't rely on them to be the only source of answers in your class.